Have you ever noticed that no matter who you ask, your mechanic, your coworker, your parents, or even complete strangers online, sooner or later someone will tell you the exact same thing. Just get a Honda Civic. It's become one of those recommendations that almost nobody questions anymore. Need a reliable first car? Honda Civic. Looking for something that won't empty your wallet at the gas station? Honda Civic. Need something that'll probably still be running years from now? Honda Civic. At this point, you almost have to wonder, is the Honda Civic really that good? Or are people just repeating what they've always heard? Because here's the truth. The Civic isn't the fastest car. It isn't the cheapest. It isn't the most luxurious. And if we're being honest, it isn't even perfect. Some owners complain that it's noisy on the highway. Others wish it had more power. And over the last few years, prices have climbed enough to make some buyers think twice. So why, out of hundreds of cars you could buy, does the Honda Civic keep ending up at the top of everyone's recommendation list? That's exactly what we're going to find out. Not by throwing a bunch of horsepower numbers or technical things at you, but by understanding the story behind one of the most successful cars ever built. Because once you understand why the Civic became so popular, you'll also understand whether it's actually the right car for you. Let's start with something most people never think about. Cars don't accidentally build good reputations. Think about all the vehicles that were supposed to be the next big thing. Some disappeared after only a few years. Others slowly faded into the background. But somehow, the Honda Civic has managed to stay relevant for more than 50 years. That's an incredible achievement. Technology changed, gas prices changed, safety standards changed. Even the way people shop for cars completely changed. Yet somehow, the Civic adapted every single time. And that's because Honda has always understood something that many car companies forget. Most people aren't looking for the most exciting car. They're looking for a car that fits into their life. Think about your favorite pair of shoes. They probably aren't the most expensive pair you own. They're probably not the flashiest either. But they're comfortable, reliable, and you know exactly what to expect every time you put them on. That's exactly what the Honda Civic became for millions of people. A car you could trust. Not because it was perfect, but because it consistently did everything well. And that consistency became its biggest strength. But here's where things get interesting. By the early 2000s, Honda had a problem. The Civic was still selling well. People still trusted it. But there was one word that kept showing up whenever reviewers talked about it. Boring. Reliable? Absolutely. Smart purchase? Definitely. Exciting? Not really. And in a world where competitors were becoming bolder, that wasn't good enough anymore. Honda realized something important. If they kept playing it safe, the Civic might slowly lose the younger generation of buyers. So they made one of the biggest design changes in the car's history. When the 10th generation Honda Civic arrived for the 2016 model year, it didn't just look different. It looked like Honda had completely changed its personality. The clean, conservative styling was gone. Instead, the Civic suddenly had sharp body lines, a lower stance, a wider appearance, and styling that looked far more aggressive than anyone expected. It almost looked like Honda had taken inspiration from a sports car instead of an economy car. Some people loved it. Others thought Honda had gone way too far. But regardless of which side you were on, everyone was talking about it. And that's exactly what Honda wanted. Because there's something worse than people hating your design. People not noticing it at all. The new Civic was impossible to ignore. But the changes weren't only skin deep. Honda completely rethought how the car felt from the driver's seat. The moment you climbed inside, you noticed the cabin wrapped around you a little more. The dashboard felt cleaner. The seats felt more supportive. Visibility improved. And perhaps most importantly, it no longer felt like Honda was only building a practical commuter car. It finally felt like they cared about making everyday driving enjoyable. Now, don't misunderstand. The Civic didn't suddenly become a race car. You weren't buying it to beat sports cars at stoplights. Honda wasn't chasing that audience. Instead, they focused on making all the little things better. The steering felt more natural. The ride felt more refined. The cabin felt quieter than before. Road trips became more comfortable. Daily commutes became less tiring. And all those little improvements started adding up. Because that's the secret behind the Honda Civic. Very rarely does it win because it's the absolute best at one thing. It wins because it's consistently above average at almost everything. Need decent fuel economy? It delivers. Need enough room for friends or family? No problem. Need something that doesn't constantly leave you stranded? That's been one of the Civic's biggest selling points for decades. It quietly checks almost every box that most drivers care about, and that's why so many people who buy one end up buying another. But as successful as the 10th generation Civic became, it created a brand new challenge for Honda. How do you improve something that's already working? Do you make it even sportier? Do you add more aggressive styling? Do you completely reinvent it again? Surprisingly, Honda chose a completely different path, and that decision would shape the next generation of the Civic in a way that surprised almost everyone. Imagine your Honda for a second. You've just built one of the most successful Civics ever. Sales are strong. People love the redesign. Car enthusiasts are finally paying attention again. So what do you do next? Most companies would probably think bigger. More aggressive styling, more horsepower, more flashy technology. Basically, turn the volume all the way up. But Honda looked at the situation differently. Instead of asking, how can we make the Civic more exciting? They asked something much smarter. How can we make people enjoy living with it every single day? That single question shaped the entire 11th generation Honda Civic. And honestly, it's probably why the newest Civic feels so different from the one before it. The first thing people noticed wasn't under the hood. It wasn't inside the cabin. It wasn't even behind the wheel. It was the design. Compared to the sharp, futuristic look of the 10th generation, the new Civic almost looked calm. The fake vents disappeared. The body lines became cleaner. The headlights became simpler. Everything looked more mature. Some people immediately called it boring. Others called it timeless. And that's an important difference. Think about fashion. A bright neon outfit might grab everyone's attention today, but 5 years later, it can look completely outdated. A simple black suit, it rarely goes out of style. Honda was betting that the same idea applied to cars. Instead of chasing trends, they wanted the Civic to age gracefully. It's the kind of design you might appreciate even more after owning it for several years. Then you step inside. And this is where Honda made one of the biggest improvements. Instead of filling the dashboard with dramatic shapes and busy styling, everything became cleaner, more organized, more intentional. One of the most recognizable details is the full-width honeycomb-style air vent stretching across the dashboard. It's a small design choice, but it completely changes how the interior feels. Nothing screams for your attention. Instead, everything feels exactly where you'd expect it to be, and that's actually harder to design than it sounds. Good design isn't about adding more. Sometimes, it's about knowing what to remove. Now, here's something that doesn't show up on a spec sheet. Noise. Most people never think about road noise until they're sitting on the highway for an hour. The 11th generation Civic feels noticeably more refined. Less vibration, less wind noise, less of that constant humming sound that slowly wears you out during long drives. It's one of those improvements you probably won't notice during a 5-minute test drive, but after owning the car for months, you'll appreciate it every single day. Honda wasn't trying to impress you for 5 minutes. They were trying to impress you for 5 years. Another thing Honda improved was confidence. Not confidence in the driver, confidence in the car itself. The steering feels predictable, the brakes feel natural, the suspension handles rough roads without making every bump feel dramatic. Nothing feels exaggerated, everything feels balanced, and balance has always been one of the Civic's biggest strengths. It's comfortable enough for daily commuting, yet still engaging enough that driving doesn't feel like a chore. That's a surprisingly difficult balance to achieve. Of course, no car is perfect, and the Civic is no exception. One of the biggest complaints you'll still hear is the price. The Honda Civic used to be known as an affordable choice. Today, it's still a great value, but it's no longer the bargain it once was. With newer technology, improved safety features, better materials, and overall higher manufacturing costs, the Civic has steadily become more expensive. That leads many buyers to ask an important question. If I'm already spending this much, should I just buy something else? It's a fair question, and the answer depends on what you're looking for. If you're chasing luxury, there are better options. If you want the fastest car for your money, there are faster choices. If your only goal is spending the absolute least, there are certainly cheaper cars. But here's where the Civic continues to stand out. Very few cars combine reliability, fuel efficiency, comfort, strong resale value, modern technology, and an enjoyable driving experience, all in one package. Most cars excel in one or two areas. The Civic quietly performs well in almost all of them. There's another reason the Civic has stayed popular for so long: trust. Think about it. When people recommend a Civic, they're usually recommending it because of their own experience, or because someone they know owned one, or because their mechanic keeps saying the same thing. That kind of reputation can't be bought with advertising. It takes decades to build. Every reliable commute, every family road trip, every first car that lasted longer than expected. Those experiences slowly created one of the strongest reputations in the automotive world. And once a reputation like that exists, it becomes incredibly difficult for competitors to catch up. So, should you buy one? Honestly, that depends on you. If you're looking for the most exciting sports car, probably not. If you're searching for luxury above everything else, there are better choices. But if you want a car that makes very few compromises, a car that's easy to live with, easy to recommend, and easy to trust, it's hard to argue against the Honda Civic. Whether you're looking at a well-maintained 10th generation model or considering the latest 11th generation, you're getting the result of decades of small improvements rather than one revolutionary breakthrough. And maybe that's the biggest lesson of all. The Honda Civic didn't become one of the world's most successful cars because Honda got everything right overnight. It became successful because Honda kept asking the same question: how can we make this just a little bit better than before? Generation after generation, year after year, those small improvements added up. That's why so many people recommend it. That's why so many owners buy another one. And that's why, after all these years, the Honda Civic isn't just another compact car. It's become the benchmark that almost every other affordable car is measured against.
list. And whether you're thinking about buying one today, or you're simply curious why the Civic has earned such a loyal following, now you know. It was never about being the flashiest car on the road. It was about becoming one of the easiest cars to live with. And sometimes, that's exactly what makes a car legendary.